Great to be joined by the member for Riverina, Michael McCormack. Michael, how are you going? And importantly also, how's the local community going after all the water's come through?
Yeah, look, I know that Condobolin and other centres downstream of the Lachlan are copping it at the moment and will do so for some time to come. Forbes, of course, it's clean-up time. And, once the water subsides, that's when the real heartache begins for many, many people, because they realise just how bad it has affected their properties. They realise that some of their treasured possessions, such as photo albums and the like, are never going to be the same. That is just so tragic for many people. Of course, yesterday there was the funeral in Wyangala of Diane Smith, who lost her life on that dreadful morning when the floodwaters came through many feet, many metres deep, and came unexpectedly. And many people were saved by the mere fact that it happened in daylight hours and not at night, because as Max Granston, a long-time local, told me, had it happened at night, he said we would have had more than 150 people die. And, that was, in one sense, if you can take some small mercies from that, then at least that avoided, something that would have been far worse.
Well, I believe the Wyangala residents had a bit of a win as well in terms of their levy held, or the waters didn't get as high as was expected. Things could have been a lot worse there.
Well, they could have been a lot worse. And, for Forbes and other centres on the Lachlan, if we could get a real commitment from the New South Wales government to raise the dam wall by 10 metres to 95 metres, that would add 650 gigalitres of capacity to that vital piece of water infrastructure. That's about the amount of water that almost was being released on the worst days, every day, day after day. There was virtually, well, wasn't quite 650. It was about half the capacity of Sydney Harbour was being released on a daily basis. But 650 gigalitres is a little bit more than Sydney Harbour, but still in all, it would have saved a lot of farms and saved a lot of properties, and that would have been a good thing. But anyway, we can talk about that now that the waters have subsided, and we can actually get on with some real action, given the fact that we've got a state election next March.
Yeah, well, speaking of real action, your National Party leader, you were a former leader yourself, David Littleproud, talked about maybe some federal powers might need to be brought to bear just to protect life and property in future, to put that dam wall up or future dams all over the basin.
Well, I know when I was Deputy Prime Minister, I made sure that we put in place a national water grid. I made sure that we put in place substantial funding, $3.5 billion, to get these sorts of projects, the business cases done for them, all of the necessary preliminary work that needs to happen before a hole is dug and a truckload of cement is poured. But we just have to stop talking about it and get on with it. But we can't build dams at the Commonwealth level without state say-so. We can't do it because states have the jurisdictional responsibility for these pieces of water infrastructure. But the federal government then was a willing partner. I'm not so sure now, because we've got a Labor Party in power, and they seem to be more interested in other things rather than, unfortunately, building dams. But it really does annoy me when you get the state shadow water spokesperson, Rosemary Jackson, who comes out with a comment like the fact that we're not going to build more water infrastructure, we just need better roads so the people of Forbes can actually evacuate more quickly. Now, that's like saying, well, I'm the CEO of an airline company and don't worry about the planes or the safety. We've got pretty good parachutes and you can just use one of those. We've got the best parachutes money can buy. I mean, this was quite an insult to the people of the Central West who've now endured flooding 8 times, if you count the 4 peaks this year, in the last 12 years. And, of course, before that, it was on average every 7 years since 1887. Too many floods, too many unnecessary floods, and we need to just do something in relation to Wyangala Dam. If it's good enough for them to extend and strengthen and heighten the Warragamba Dam wall for the Hawkesbury, must be good enough for the people of the Central West.
Yeah, good point. And not only communities and their homes affected, but also farmers affected with their cropping. Just how are things looking for the local farmers? Are significant crop losses, or are we going to still get something out of the winter cropping season?
Well, I was driving through the electorate Southwoods the other day, and I noticed that around Cookadini and Mangapla Way there was some early stripping being done, and there was some field bins being filled. We're going to struggle with getting a lot of the heavy harvesting gear into paddocks, because the paddocks are still waterlogged in many parts of the electorate. But it's, look, you and I have both been around long enough to know that we get a few drying days, a few windy days. Ground does dry out pretty quickly, and let's just hope that this continues. We haven't had a drop of rain since Sunday 2 weeks ago. I know that because my daughter got married the day before and it rained, and it hasn't rained since. She was quite annoyed that it had to rain on her wedding day, but as I told
But she's a rainbreaker.
Well, indeed. And we needed some change, and so we haven't had a wet day for a couple of week and a half now, and may that long continue, because we just need those drying days to ensure that we can get the harvesting gear into the paddocks and get the crops off. I mean, the crops in many parts have been damaged, and some of them irreparably, but for those areas around Lockhart and Narandra and Boree Creek and Brookong and the like, they will be okay, and let's see if we can get in and get them and get those farmers a good price for their grain.
Well, Michael, we'll catch up with you one more time before the end of the year. We might chat then about what's been happening in your shadow portfolio responsibilities and wrapping up the year in federal politics. Thanks for joining us again today on Flow.
Thanks, Ricky. All the very best.